On my birthday, my boyfriend stood in front of the entire company and announced his wedding date with another woman. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I quietly sought him out, desperate for an explanation. But what I stumbled upon was far worse than I could have imagined. In the break room, I overheard him talking to one of his friends. "Aren't you worried Celine will be upset about this?" the friend asked hesitantly. Marcus sighed, his tone cold and matter-of-fact. "What choice do I have? If I don't marry Isabel, her family will force her into an arranged marriage. I can't let that happen." The friend hesitated but pressed on. "But, she's been with you for years. Doesn't that matter?" Marcus chuckled lightly, a sound that used to bring me comfort, but now felt like a slap to the face. "Celine's been mine for 7 years. She knows that. What choice does she have but to wait for me?" Each word hit like a dagger to my chest. 7 years. 7 years of love, patience, and unwavering support. And this was how he saw me? As someone with no other option? Later, my family arranged for me to meet someone they thought would be a more suitable match, a man from the well-known Bennett family. The day I was to marry this stranger was the same day Marcus married Isabel. As Marcus' wedding day approached, unease settled over him. Something felt wrong. He warned his groomsmen to keep an eye out, worried I might crash the ceremony. One of them hesitated before speaking. "You haven't heard? Celine's getting married today too." "Mom, does the Bennett family's proposal still stand?" I asked over lunch. My mother froze, her hand trembling slightly as she held her teacup. Her wide eyes locked onto mine. "Why are you asking about that?" Just hours earlier, social media had exploded with engagement photos of Marcus and Isabel. Everyone was talking about the upcoming wedding of the Rollins family heir. But the bride wasn't me, the woman who had stood by his side for 7 years. "Celine," my mom said again, her tone firmer. "Marriage isn't something you should rush into. I don't want you making this decision on impulse." I swallowed the lump in my throat and shook my head. "I'm not being impulsive, Mom. You didn't reject Alexander Bennett's proposal outright. Which means you think he's a better choice than Marcus. I trust your judgment." She sighed deeply, placing her hands on the table. "Alexander Bennett is a good man. But marriage is a lifetime commitment. Don't you think you should meet him first? Take time to get to know him?" "I'll skip that part," I said firmly. "You can handle the arrangements. I'll go along with whatever you think is best." After lunch, I returned to the small apartment I had bought for myself, only to find Marcus there. The sound of the door opening caught his attention. He closed his laptop and looked up at me as if everything were perfectly normal. I slipped off my shoes, my mind racing. "Why are you here?" "I had a business dinner nearby," he said casually, standing and walking toward me as he always did. "Thought I'd stop by to check on you." As he got closer, a familiar floral scent hit me, Isabel's perfume. Revulsion twisted in my stomach. I instinctively took a step back, dodging his outstretched arms while a sting crept into my eyes and nose. "What's wrong?" he asked lightly, as if unaware of what he had done. "Nothing," I replied stiffly. "Well, you've seen me, alive and breathing. You can go now." His smile faltered, but he quickly recovered with a soft laugh. "Last week, you were upset because I hadn't been spending enough time with you. Now I clear my schedule just to be with you, and you don't even want me near you? Come on, Celine." I squinted as my mind replayed yesterday's events. Yesterday was my birthday. I had waited all day, hoping, just hoping, to hear from him. But not a single call or text came. By nightfall, the silence had become unbearable, so I decided to go look for him. Before I could, a message popped up on my phone, a video from an unfamiliar number. Curiosity turned to dread as I played it. The video showed Marcus standing in the center of his office, proposing to Isabel in front of their colleagues. The room was filled with cheers and laughter. My mind raced, searching for an explanation, any reason that could make this make sense. Desperation carried me to his company, determined to hear the truth from him directly. But instead of finding answers, I stumbled upon his conversation in the break room. "Celine's been mine for 7 years. She knows that. What choice does she have but to wait for me?" Me. I had waited for 7 long years. I had waited for a man who never truly saw me. Every word I overheard was a dagger, shattering the remnants of the trust one had so stubbornly clung to. It was in that moment that I realized what I had become, a fool, holding on to a love that was never mine. When I was a child, my parents kept a constant, watchful eye on me. They wouldn't let me play outside with the other kids. I could only sit on the balcony, watching them run and laugh, longing to join them. Every time Marcus saw me sitting there while he played with the other kids, he would sneak away and slip me a small trinket, something silly, something precious only because it was from him. He'd pinch my cheeks with a mischievous smile and whisper, "When can you come out and play with me?" As I grew older, my health improved, and by high school, my parents finally relented. But over time, things changed. Just go do your own thing, Marcus said one day, brushing me off. His conversations with Isabel deepened, ranging from class discussions to late-night chats online. They became inseparable, their connection undeniable. Meanwhile, the bond between Marcus and me began to strain. We grew more distant. Our conversations became increasingly rare, reduced to nothing more than casual greetings. Friends tried to warn me. They urged me to keep an eye on their growing closeness. I should have listened. I sat at the edge of my bed, wrapping my arms tightly around myself, as if trying to hold the pieces of me together. Marcus, I don't want to love you anymore. The thought whispered through my mind, both freeing and suffocating at the same time. The next morning, I woke up feeling groggy and disoriented, the weight of the previous night pressing heavily on my chest. I rubbed my temples, trying to soothe the dull ache creeping through my skull, before forcing myself out of bed. As I stepped into the living room, I noticed my phone screen glowing with a new notification. A photo of Isabel beaming at the camera, fingers forming a heart shape. Her caption read, "Take your time, no rush. I'll be waiting." That was when it clicked. I let out a dry, self-deprecating laugh. So that's why Marcus had left in such a hurry. Without a second thought, I called a local courier service and had his phone sent directly to his office. Then, I pushed all thoughts of him aside and went straight to work. Since graduating, I had been working at the Bennett family enterprise. My father, determined to instill discipline, had insisted I start from the very bottom as a junior associate. For years, I had handled projects connected to the Sinclair Group, blindly trusting Marcus without ever questioning whether our collaborations truly benefited my company. But from now on, I vowed to prioritize what was best for us. No more blind faith, I murmured as I signed the contract in front of me. The workday passed in a blur, and by the time I was done, hunger gnawed at my stomach. I decided to check out the trendy new restaurant downtown, only to find it packed. Just as I debated leaving, I spotted Marcus seated at a table near the window, an elegant meal laid out before him. "Hold on now," he teased, a playful smirk tugging at his lips. "We both know who's actually going to eat the spicy dish." He turned to Isabel with a gentle scolding look. "Didn't the doctor tell you to cut back on spice? You should stick to milder food." Isabel rolled her eyes, waving him off. All right, Mr. Nagging. I won't order it. Happy now?" Watching them bicker, my heart didn't even flinch. The pain had dulled into nothingness. I was finally numb. Marcus sighed, shaking his head. "You guys go ahead. I need to." Before he could finish, a loud crash split the air. And the next thing I knew, chaos erupted. A waiter had lost control of a tray, sending dishes flying. The commotion knocked into me hard, making me stumble back. Before I could steady myself, I heard a familiar, frantic voice. "Isabel. Don't move. I'll get you out of here." Marcus didn't hesitate. He rushed forward, shielding her without a second thought. His breath came fast, laced with relief, as he pulled her close. "Are you hurt?" His voice was thick with concern. "No. I'm fine," she murmured. "Thank God," he exhaled, holding her tighter. And then, almost as if sensing something, he turned. His gaze landed on me, standing silently just a few feet away. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. Instead, I reached for my phone, opening the message from the bridal boutique. The designer had confirmed my appointment. During lunch, I was expected to pick up my wedding dress. It was supposed to be for my engagement to Marcus. For that moment when he would get down on one knee and propose. But fate had other plans. As soon as I stepped into the boutique, Isabel followed close behind. Her sharp gaze landed on the gift box in my arms before turning to the designer. With an air of entitlement, she declared, "I want to try on that wedding dress." The designer hesitated before politely explaining. "I'm sorry, miss, but this dress was custom-made." "Isabel, have you lost your mind?" I snapped, seething, as I clutched the dress protectively. I reached out to take it back, but in the chaos, the sharp edge of a pair of scissors grazed my arm. A thin line of crimson bloomed against my skin. Isabel froze, her eyes widening. Then, in a moment of terrifying irrationality, she raised the scissors and dragged them across her own arm, slicing into her skin. Her expression twisted, part anguish, part something unhinged. With a choked sob, she collapsed onto the floor, her shoulders trembling as she wept. I stood there, stunned, unable to comprehend her erratic behavior. Before I could speak, Marcus burst into the room, his frantic gaze darting between us. The sight of Isabel crumpled on the floor, blood staining the fabric of her sleeve, made him rush forward. He didn't even glance in my direction. Should I explain? Should I justify myself? Instead, I exhaled slowly, forcing a small, detached smile. "That won't be necessary." Some things were better left unsaid. Some ties were better left to fray and snap completely. Time passed quickly, and before I knew it, my wedding day had arrived. It was also the first time I was meeting my soon-to-be husband. Alexander Bennett was nothing like Marcus. His presence was commanding, his tailored suit complementing his refined features. He was composed, unreadable, a man used to negotiating high-stakes deals, not weddings with strangers. Meanwhile, miles away, Marcus sat in his hotel room, his phone practically glued to his hand. He refreshed his messages for what must have been the 100th time. Nothing. No updates. His unease grew, a tight knot forming in his chest. By the time he arrived at the wedding venue, his nerves were frayed. He turned to his groomsmen, his voice sharp. "Make sure Celine doesn't show up here to cause trouble." One of them snorted. "Relax, Marcus," he said, grinning. "I doubt she cares enough to show up." But Marcus wasn't laughing. True to his word, Alexander didn't rush me. That night, though we shared the same bed, an extra blanket between us served as a quiet reminder of the space he was willing to give me. As I stared at the ceiling, my mind drifted. We had no history, no past, no shared memories. So why had he chosen to marry me? Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus's patience finally snapped. "Find out who Celine married," he growled. His frustration vibrated through the room. The moment the answer reached him, his rage exploded. With a roar, he kicked the coffee table, sending it crashing to the ground. His chest heaved with barely restrained fury. Across from him, Isabel cowered in the corner, wrapped in a scarlet silk robe. Trembling, she reached out hesitantly. "Marcus, tonight is our wedding night." Before her fingers could even graze his arm, he shoved her away. Somewhere, through the haze of his anger, a voice from his past whispered through his mind. "Celine, come out here. I won't let you marry anyone else, Celine." The familiar voice jolted me awake. My heart sank with dread as I sat up abruptly, scanning the room. Instinctively, I turned to my side, expecting to see Alexander, but the space beside me was empty. A faint rustling sound came from the balcony. My pulse quickened as I slipped out of bed and padded toward the noise. Outside, Marcus's voice cut through the night air, hoarse yet insistent. "Celine, come down here." I gripped the edge of the curtain, hesitating. A sigh from behind me made me turn. Alexander stood there, his sharp gaze flicking down to my bare feet. "Aren't you wearing your slippers?" His voice was calm, yet firm. I swallowed hard. I was in a rush. I didn't think to put them on. Suddenly, the situation felt absurd, and I was painfully aware of my own unease. Without another word, he bent down and effortlessly scooped me into his arms. I gasped softly, my fingers instinctively clutching his shoulders. His grip was steady, unshaken, as he carried me back to the bed and gently set me down. Then, with a casual precision, he pulled the blanket over me and gave it a soft pat, almost like tucking in a child. "It's still early," he murmured. "But he's still down there." I stared at the ceiling, my fingers hovering over my phone's keyboard. Finally, I typed a single response. "Please don't contact me again." Marcus's reply came almost immediately. "Celine, stop joking around. I know you're upset about me marrying Isabel, but I can explain everything. Let's meet at the coffee shop." I didn't bother replying. Instead, I deleted our entire conversation, along with every trace of his contact information. There was no reason to hold on to the past. It was time to move forward once and for all. Later that day, I set the gifts down on the table. "It's nothing, really. I'd feel strange showing up empty-handed," I said. The gifts weren't just thoughtful, they were refined. The kind that quietly spoke of good taste and attention to detail. My mother practically beamed, and even my father, usually reserved, looked pleased. Dad invited Alexander into his study to discuss business, leaving my mother and me alone in the kitchen. As soon as the study door clicked shut, she leaned in, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Marcus called me earlier." My fingers tightened around the teacup. "After 20 years of friendship with the Rollins family, I couldn't ignore the call," she continued. "But it wasn't his mother. It was him." I set the cup down, my chest tightening. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm sorry to bother you at this hour," Marcus had pleaded. "I just need to ask if you can help me get in touch with Celine." My mother shot me a glance before sneering into the phone. "Marcus, if I'm not mistaken, you're married now, aren't you? What do you need to talk to Celine about?" "It's complicated. Please, Mrs. Bennett, I really need to talk to her. For the sake of our family's friendship, could you help me?" At that, my mother's patience snapped. "Marcus Rollins, if it weren't for your parents, I wouldn't even entertain this conversation. You made your choice. Now live with it." She hung up without another word. I swallowed hard, absorbing her words. That night, as I mulled over the situation, I shared my thoughts with Alexander. His expression remained composed, though there was a glint of steel in his gaze. Rather than stopping me, he simply said, "If he's that insistent, maybe we should go out there and settle this ourselves." I couldn't help but be amused by Alexander's response, and I nodded in agreement. As I stepped outside, Marcus was standing near the door, his eyes lighting up with a flicker of hope the moment he saw me. His expression was raw with desperation, his voice trembling with restrained emotion. "Celine, you finally came." He had the audacity to believe that if he turned back now, I would still be waiting for him. That after everything, I'd still be here, frozen in time, ready to pick up the pieces he carelessly shattered. "Love isn't just words, Marcus," I said evenly. "You claim you don't love Isabel, but your actions say otherwise." Maybe he never truly understood what it meant to love someone. Or maybe what he loved most was himself. "No, it's not like that, Celine," he stammered. "Isabel and we're just friends." It was her family. He reached for my arm, but I instinctively stepped back, unwilling to let him touch me. He didn't stop. His grip tightened, his desperation clawing through his fingers as he pleaded. "Celine, please don't do this to me." "Just leave, Marcus," I said coldly. "I'm married now. Don't ever come looking for me again." His expression twisted, a flash of something dark crossing his eyes. "You've forgotten, haven't you?" His voice rose, sharp and accusing. "You've forgotten all the promises we made to each other. You swore." Before I could react, he lunged forward, grabbing my arm with a force that sent me stumbling. But before I could hit the ground, I fell into a firm, warm embrace. "Alexander." His chest rose and fell rapidly as I leaned against him, everything around me dissolving into silence. The only thing I could hear was the frantic beating of his heart. With a single punch, Marcus was sent sprawling to the ground. He groaned, lifting his head to look at the unfamiliar man standing over him. His eyes flickered with pain, disbelief. "Who the hell are you?" he spat. Alexander's arm wrapped securely around my waist, his hold steady, possessive. His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was undeniable. "I'm her husband." His words sent a chill down my spine. Marcus's face twisted with rage, and in an instant, he lunged again. Alexander barely hesitated, he shoved me behind him and whispered, "Stay back. I don't want you to get hurt." Without thinking, I took a few steps back. In the blink of an eye, the two men were locked in a violent struggle. Alexander moved with calculated precision, landing forceful blows with practiced ease. Marcus, despite his regular gym sessions, was no match for him. His punches were reckless, uncoordinated, born of desperation rather than skill. It didn't take long before he was left helpless, gasping for breath. "Stop!" I shouted. "Alexander, stop. If he dies, you'll be dragged into this." Alexander froze, his breathing ragged. His fists were clenched, his knuckles bruised, but he let go. Marcus lay on the ground, groaning in pain. He looked up at me one last time, his expression hollow. I didn't spare him another glance. I turned away, walking back inside with Alexander by my side. Marcus had made his choice. And I had finally made mine. I quickly stopped Alexander before calmly taking out my phone to call an ambulance. Just as I ended the call, I paused, studying his face. A strange sense of familiarity crept in. "I feel like I've seen you somewhere before," I murmured, still unsure. A hint of amusement flickered in Alexander's eyes. "Did you finally get your memory back?" he teased. I blinked, still confused. He chuckled softly and, in an unexpectedly gentle gesture, lightly pinched the tip of my finger. "You scatterbrain," he said, smirking. "I was the one who helped you when you got jumped by those scoundrels back in high school. You were just like this, putting medicine on my wounds." I froze. The memory surged forward, vivid and undeniable. Our senior year. A dark alley behind the school. Blood on his knuckles. A nameless boy shielding me from danger. Alexander watched my face carefully, as if sensing the realization dawn on me. His lips curved into a faint smile. "You remember now, don't you?" His voice was calm, but there was something knowing in his tone. I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," I murmured, nodding. Guilt twisted in my chest. "I forgot about it. You probably think I'm awful, shameless and ungrateful for not remembering the person who saved me." The words felt bitter. The truth was, I had never forgotten the kindness of the boy who had helped me, I had just never known his name. Alexander exhaled softly, shaking his head. "I never expected you to remember." Then, after a pause, he added, "But I always remembered you." My breath caught. "When I proposed, I knew there was a chance you would turn me down," he continued. "But when you said yes, it was the best surprise of my life." There was a rawness in his voice that made my cheeks flush. I had always assumed marriage was just an inevitable step in life, that it didn't really matter who I ended up with. But hearing him say that made me realize something deeper. Marrying someone who made your heart race, who saw you before you even saw them, was the most incredible thing in the world. Does that mean you like me? I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Alexander stilled. His breath was unsteady, his gaze unreadable. Celine, he said, his voice low and rough. Are you sure about this? I didn't answer with words. Instead, I wrapped my arms around him, holding him close, letting my actions speak for themselves. That night, as the wind howled and rain lashed against the windows, something between us shifted, quiet but undeniable. It reshaped what we were and what we could become. And just before sleep claimed me, I thought I heard him whisper, "You don't have to hide anymore." Meanwhile, Isabel believed. She had secured her place as Mrs. Bennet. But her joy was short-lived. When Marcus uncovered the truth about her manipulations, his fury knew no bounds. Without hesitation, he dragged her to the hospital, forcing her to undergo an abortion. The procedure left her devastated. Not only had she lost her child, but the aftermath of the surgery had also dealt her an irreversible blow. She would never be able to bear children again. When Isabel received the news, she unraveled completely, consumed by rage and despair. But I no longer cared. For the first time, I was walking toward a bright and promising future. No shadows of the past could reach us now. Our love, untainted and unbreakable, would stretch endlessly ahead of us, guiding us through the long and wonderful life we were about to build together.